Okay, great. Guys, thank you for joining us. I see Elizabeth and Penny and Diana and Mary and Kathy and Gabby, Carol. I love this. I feel like I'm like looking through a little mirror. Oh, happy to join. I'm Sara Kooperman. I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness Education. I'm really excited tonight because I've got two great guys that don't know each other, but they're more alike than I think they ever knew. So, or that they'll realize. So this is really fun. We're doing performance training for sports and well-being tonight. And a lot of clients are looking to improve their performance, whether it's running faster, jumping higher, even adding 10 yards to their driver. And I thought, oh, I guess that's golf. Okay, because the only sport I know is hockey, right? Power, speed, and mobility are the focus to improve our function and address our weaknesses. So we're going to talk about this. We've got the brilliant Alex Bryce, who's got his master's degree in exercise science, and he's got an undergraduate degree in strength and conditioning and sports nutrition. He's a certified strength and conditioning specialist from the National Strength and Conditioning Association. He's also getting his PhD in physical therapy, right, Alex? Yes.
Yep.
He's, slightly well educated. We'll take care of him during this talk. And then we've got a dear friend of mine, Peter Twist, who is an exercise physiologist with a master's in coaching science. He's coached full-time in the NHL for 11 years. NHL is the National Hockey League. That's kind of how we know each other. And has worked with over 700 professional athletes, including 4 major league MVPs from 3 different sports. And what's cool about these guys is not only are they brilliant and wonderful and kind, but Peter trained 2 of my sons, my younger ones, Max and Zach, one of whom is going to be playing professional hockey in Europe, believe it or not, Peter. Very exciting.
Excellent.
The baby.
Congratulations.
Yeah. The youngest of 4, who's been the most, obviously had to fight his way.
Thanks to Alex.
Yeah, for his whole life. And Alex has trained my oldest son in strength and conditioning and jujitsu and nutrition coaching as well. So this is really cool. You're getting these wonderful professionals. So my first question is, I'm going to start with you, Alex. What are the key fundamentals of performance?
Well, we have a bit of a long running joke on this, but I have to start with it depends, right? And I don't want to spoil too much of what Coach Twist has coming up for you guys, where he'll dive into a little bit more of some of the specific details. But I like to take a little bit of a 10,000-foot view, especially with non-athlete clients when we're talking about training for performance. And really, a lot of it boils down to you have to have objective, measurable goals. If that's established, you can then work backwards to figure out what is your training actually going to look like to improve that performance. If it isn't measured, it isn't managed. And saying, well, I just want to get stronger. Well, great. So does everybody. How much stronger do you want to get? Do you want to improve your bench press by 20%? Do you want to shave a minute off of your mile time? If we're dealing with a specific objective measure that we can test and then retest, well, then we're training for performance in some way, shape, or form. That may look very different from exactly what an NHL player is doing, or an Olympic athlete, or a collegiate athlete. But as long as that's in place, all of the other variables are going to sort of be reverse engineered from there, because your training is going to be very, very different. With the intro, we talked about strength and power. For a football player, absolutely. But what if you want to run marathons at an elite level? That's probably not the athletic variables where you're going to be spending the majority of your time. So we've always got to start with, what are your goals? What do you want to improve? And then we can work from there.
Right, right. And if your goals are, let's say, pickleball or skiing, it's going to be, right. If you have a measurable goal, you have to adapt. That is definitely key. Pete, you gave us some great slides. Do you want me to access them now? Does that work for you?
That next question, I think that'll fit in. I can address some key
Would you
fundamentals of
please?
performance.
Oh, one more thing, guys, just so you all know, I didn't ask you to, usually I have you guys open your chat boxes, all you guys on the webinar. Please move your mouse and go to the bottom of your screen. You're going to see the green share button. If you go to the left, you'll see the chat box, and you can type in your name and where you're from. And I see Penny just said she's from Michigan, but she has no sound. I'm not quite sure. Everybody else, I think we're hearing okay. Penny, it may be your computer. You may be on silent somehow. But you can type in your name. Oh, there she wrote, she's fine now. So that's great. Jeremiah is from Texas. We've got people from New Jersey, Tennessee. This is great. Thank you guys for joining us. If you have a question, something specific, something pressing, some reason why you specifically turned into this webinar, please type it into the chat box. We really try to stay cognizant of that and stay on task. So we're going to start, Peter, with you. What are the key fundamentals of performance?
Yeah, great. Well, I wanted to welcome everyone and thank you for joining Alex and Sarah and I and sharing passion in this area, whether you've been in the trenches for a while in sport performance or it's a specialty you're developing to add in. Good for you. You know, if we look at the Olympics and Paralympics that just came by, you know, athletes are winning gold medals. They have the mindset, they have the body, and they have their cellular health at an optimal level to be the best in the world. A sport performance model made level appropriate for everyone. That's how we move our body on our feet, on earth, in gravity. So the two fundamentals, mindset and body. Mindset, I'll say an I can do it attitude, and training so powerful because every day in the training space, you purposely cause your clients to fail. And that's because they fatigue out on reps or they need to adapt. They don't have the neural ability to do an exercise. So you're always fail and improve, fail and improve. That's so powerful that I can do it. I trust the self-belief that if I train, practice, I'll figure this out, I'll keep improving, and that affects their sport. Resiliency, mental resiliency. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but it's fair to say during this COVID period, it's a time for peacefulness, gentle living, kindness, and respect. We're not hearing that because we lack the population lacks the resiliency and the mental strength to find a way to pivot and flow through. Athletes for performance need adaptability. As a coach, you need adaptability. You'll plan. You'll probably never do one workout exactly as you plan. What are you changing to on the day? And athletes need adaptability, cooperation. This is kind of like a checklist for succeeding through these times for people. Need cooperation to cooperate with the plan, your coach, your therapist, your teammates, and planning. From a physicality standpoint, I think I can break down all the sports sciences down into two things to focus on that really affect the fundamentals of performance. It's load management. Because we're on a giant Earth and its gravity field is a lot stronger than ours, and we play most sports up on our feet. So we need to be, all the things we do with athletes is to link the body from head to toe, toe to fingertip. So if I'm holding a weight, I can manage that load. I know how to get my body under that and manage this load into my body, into the earth. And when I'm moving for speed, agility, quickness, it's how do I manage my mass? Now I'm the weight. How do I manage that into the ground with gravity and not only be kind on my joints, but have the right body angle to change direction and get energy from that. Load management top down and into the ground. If you can do that, you're doing all the right things in between. And the last I'll say quickly from a fundamental performance is pick athletes with the right parents. And I like to say, because I've trained so many pro and Olympic athletes and college athletes, and I don't say this disrespectfully, it's just kind of a funny way that you'll help you remember. I can't make a donkey a thoroughbred racehorse. So I hope thoroughbred racehorses do better, and I can make a donkey the best darn donkey in the world. But we do rely on the parents and that DNA. So for some people, sport performance is to create anomaly level action. And for other clients, it's more of a toned down version that's going to help them with active daily living, be more active with their kids and so on.
That's good. That's great. That really helps. I enjoy that you put in attitude, resiliency, adaptability, and cooperation, because I think sometimes with performance, we think it's, how do we push, pull, lift? We break it down, but there's a deeper element that goes there. I'm going to jump to a question, and Alex, you answered it, but I'd like you to elaborate on it. We got a question from Natalie, and she asked, are there any suggestions for kids like an 8th grader with flat feet? Now, I know that sounds like an odd question, but there's plenty of people that have feet and stability issues, and I think this has a broader impact. Alex, Natalie just typed in that he's actually a football player.
Sure. So, like I had said in the answer, there is a lot to unpack there, right? And without knowing anything about the particular child, there's developmental kinesiology is a pretty vast field and something that we're still learning a lot about. But especially with kids, adults too, I fall back to the basics, right? Play, sweat, go out and enjoy things. And in 8th grade, should we really be worrying about what are his scholarship offers, or exactly how is he moving, or how many hours per week does he need to be training? My wife is actually was a preschool teacher with a early childhood development degree, and everything that she did was play-based learning, that we're putting kids into an environment and allowing them to develop skills and coordination and motor control, and just sort of allowing puberty and natural biology to take over. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to that, where maybe there is a pathology in this particular case that needs medical attention, in which case that this is probably not the right sphere to discuss specific details about flat feet or more of a pathoanatomical diagnosis. But we have a big issue with early specialization with kids, where, and I think Coach Twist can probably speak to this, professional athletes pick their parents well and are almost always multi-sport athletes as children. And the more variation we can provide within that development process, typically the better off we're going to be.
That's interesting. Whenever I do these webinars, I'm always learning so much. And it makes me think, I was a dancer from very young age, and I actually was put into toe shoes at a very young age, messed up my foot so bad I had to get a foot operation, and I was told I wouldn't be able to dance again. But don't listen to those people. You will dance again. There was no physical therapy back then, Alex. And luckily my friend had a pool with a hot tub, and I used to sit in the hot tub and rub my foot and then swim. And I got this great mobility back. But it's interesting, we have to think about how we're training. And I do worry about sometimes people who get overly focused, shall we say, on performance. And take that sense of play out of it. I don't care if you're an 8th grader or you're an adult. You brought up the term activities of daily living, just being able to enjoy things more. So what should we focus on for improved functionality? And Peter, I think that's where you wanted the slide. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can pull up that one slide, and I had a couple of other comments that support what both of you said, but it's kind of seen it through a different context as well. So this slide, as far as functionality, so people understand when functional training was introduced in the industry, the bottom triangle was essentially functional training, and the top triangle is sport performance, if you wanted to simplify it. So at the, yeah, right there is great. So what we focus on for improved function is stability, which is your muscle stiffness across joints at the right time. Usually when you're like an elderly person walking downstairs, needs muscle stiffness across their knee and in the glutes. And that cooperates with balance, the balance of your body, your posture, your equilibrium. The other two are mobility, so not so much static flexibility, but the ease of range of motion, full freedom of motion across the joints through all your primary movement patterns, and then taking that enhanced ability with fundamental movement skills. As Alex said, you know, the best athletes really rise to the top. Younger kids, we work on general athleticism, and there's an inventory of fundamental movement skills that combine. Whether you're running around a soccer field or a tennis court, you see the same movement skills. We practice those, and then those four are integrated every inch of every rep, every second of every drill into whole body integrated strength. So you start to express them and work them in concert. That's basic functional training. Now, interesting, when we talk about kids with play, let's say my heart says that anything that gets someone moving is a good thing, and I'm sure we'd all agree, especially today. But my brain says that's not actually true, because there could be 5 of us, the 3 of us, Sarah, Alex, and myself, and 2 of you, and the 5 of us follow the same program, do the same exercises. And today in the workout, one person might get injured. One person might get no results. One person over time might create pain and dysfunction. Someone's going to get a little bit of results. And maybe Sarah really is focused on how she's doing it, and she gets exceptional results. Same exercises, same program. There is no exercise in the world that improves the human body. It's how you do it inside the exercise. That's why you as coaches and trainers are so important, and it's how you move. So functional training is there, and the younger kids, we do set them up with gamified and open-ended play, except get this, sport is fun and popular because there are rules. Video games are fun because there's rules. It's how you do it in there. So there's play, the spirit of play and the gamification of play, but it's actually should be the most structured activity and exercise, because A, that's what makes it fun, and B, that's how you get the desired movement to improve the body. It's your thoughtful coaching, but delivering it as open-ended play for the kiddies.
That's very helpful, and I think it creates a real nice focus. Alex, you train a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes, or you used to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you focus on some of the improved functionality for these athletes?
Well, everything is sort of going to be working backwards from the specific needs analysis of the sport, right? What does the sport require? It can be tempting to want to take an athlete into the weight room and turn them into a bodybuilder or a powerlifter, but that's not their sport. That's not their goal. All of the fancy equipment that we use are just means to an end. I think that the figure that Coach Twist provided is a great and succinct way to really show that big picture. Sometimes I'll use an analogy that each one of those variables is a bucket, right? And for just about every human on earth, none of those buckets can be empty entirely. But where are we going to fill those buckets? Which ones are going to have more in them than others? With jiu-jitsu and MMA in particular, MMA needs something in pretty much every single one of those buckets. If you're weak on energy system development, any of your endurance-based power, endurance, strength, all of those variables need to at least be at a sort of adequate level. With jiu-jitsu, if you look at the nature of the sport, so much of it is based on isometric control. And like Coach Twist had said, being able to control your own body, but then you're also dealing with the load or dynamic load of your opponent. And so trying to match what we're doing in the weight room from not just specificity, but from transfer of what are we doing in the weight room is going to improve their performance on the mats. It's really just trying to select those specific exercises, work to rest intervals, or tempos that at least in some way replicate the needs for their body when it actually comes time to compete. But there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I know you also, Alex, you work with like, you know, your regular clients. And we got a question from Diana. She has personal training clients who are trying to change their shape as well as lose weight through cardio and strength training. And how can we help them obtain their goals? And these are normal people trying to just burn some fat, stay healthy. What are some things you put them through?
Well, I think like Coach Twist had said, you know, the same exact figure that he provided there can be adapted to any sport, any person, right? It's just what is the execution? What's the mindset? What's the effort level? What's the intent? Bodybuilders do the exact same exercises as everybody else. They just execute them with a very, very high degree of intention. And like, you know, somebody could do RDLs all day long, but if they don't have the effort, if they don't have the load, if they don't have the intent, not going to get the same results as, you know, somebody who steps on stage for a living. So we're modifying it to, you know, what they need. So if somebody is looking to lose weight and, you know, improve aesthetics or, you know, goals that many people would probably look at and say that's not sport performance. Well, if we circle back to sort of that idea of set goals, then all of a sudden we have something to exercise for, or there's a reason that someone is getting on the treadmill or following a diet plan or lifting weights. And that's okay. You know, it's okay if you're not getting on a field and trying to score goals or, you know, have a performance measure in sport, but hey, I want to lose 10% of my body mass. Well, now all of a sudden we can work with that. That's something that can be tested, retested, and assigned different variables. So with weight loss or with aesthetics, diet is a much, much larger factor than I would like to admit. It would be awesome if just getting somebody in the weight room was enough, but it's like 90% diet, right? We need education in this specific example of what a calorie deficit is, what energy balance is, and really look to modify nutrition and what they're eating first with then exercise that's going to complement those goals.
Yeah, yeah. And how can movement limitations impact their performance? Like, Peter, what do you see when you have somebody, you know, I mean, we get to a certain age and it's like, what do they say? 70 to 80% of the people are going to have back problems. 60 to 80% of the people are going to have knee problems. So how do we deal with these limitations and yet we still want to perform?
Okay, great. I'll give three answers to that, all of them concise, hopefully for you, or I'll shut it down. But one way to approach the cardio and strength and integrating that into Sarah's question about how can movement limitations impact performance, how can we keep them going? There's 168 hours in every week. If I have a client for 3 hours a week, let's just say, if that's maybe an average, I can't do enough. Alex already recommended, you know, we need nutrition. That has to be a big part of it. That screws up my pizza later tonight, but I'll change that. I can't train my way over that. I'm going to add that in. If I only have them for 3 hours a week, that leaves 165 hours on their own to screw it all up. And can I really burn enough calories in 3 weeks to balance out 165 hours? It's mathematically impossible, perhaps. So I would suggest one way is to spend the 3 hours focusing on movement limitations and movement skills. Give them a human vehicle that works better and where their caloric expenditure will come when they can move better, confidently, enjoy movement better, and be pain-free. They're going to be much more active in life. And it's in life, not in the gym, where you sustain weight loss and a lean body and so on. So you guys might be able to, but I can't achieve someone's weight loss and physique goals in 3 hours a day if weight loss is a part of it. I focus on those movement limitations, movement skills, and then send them out into the world to be active on a daily basis. The second thing is expectations as well. Expectations, all aging research is flawed. I'm a scientist, I publish research, all aging research is flawed. I think all of us could take any 75-year-old and improve them. Does everyone believe that? So what research does is it studies moderately motivated people over time, over a year, over 10 years, and oh, look, there's a decline. Well, there's a decline in society. And we all know we can improve. If I can take almost every single subject, every single person in a research study that confirmed that, hey, they started here and after a number of years they went to here, and within 3 months, Alex and I can take them up to here, you're not measuring aging. Yeah, there's a negative expectation around aging, and hence we start doing less based on that, and we become less. If I don't do it today, I can't do it tomorrow. So that doesn't mean go out and get into CrossFit style every single day or HIIT or so on, but it does mean to change our expectations over time with anything: playing guitar, cooking, reading, studying in school, how to be a coach like you are here. We improve. We can improve with age as well. That ability is there. You can move better, more pain-free with age. So of course, most people are beat up. They have pain, they have dysfunction. We need to start working on that, and that's what we focus on the gym as they go. And one way to account for that, movement limitations that impact performance, my goal is to make exercise harder where it needs to be. We need certain intensity on the muscle to stimulate tissue adaptations. We need a certain heart rate for fitness and conditioning, but I want it to be kinder. So we focus on how do we land? How do we stop? How do we step? When I step into the ground and load my body mass, it must feel nice. I do it a little slower sequence, more skilled. Once it starts to feel nice, the reason most people have pain is because every time they step, they're loading their joints and their skeletal system more than their muscle tissue. If we can change that so we protect their joints and skeletal system and load up their muscle tissue, over time they would have more muscle mass, and muscle mass moves you. So it's knowing what to make hard for the training and what to make kinder. But just remember, the reason we regress anything is to protect something or make it level appropriate for what their body's overwhelmed with. But not just there, we regress something so we can progress something else. That makes sense? So you're always, it says it right here on my arm, it says better every day. So, there's something we're improving every day, and there's something we're being kind about. And if you can find that balance, you're going to move people ahead and get past those limitations.
I really like your philosophy of being kinder. And it doesn't mean, what I hear from that is it's not just about when we get older, it's even our younger clients, because, the same way that your mother might tell you, you have one set of teeth, brush your teeth. Well, hello, now we can get fillings, we can get fake teeth, I mean, whatever, your mother's lying to you, but you have ligaments, you have bone, and the longer that you can maintain your own ligaments and your own bone, the longer that you're going to be able to perform. So if you can learn at a younger age to do things kinder, which in effect means just smarter, then you're training the musculature and you're not damaging some of the connective tissue or the supporting structure. So I find that it's very motivating. It really is very motivating. Now, how can we take some of these philosophies and apply it, let's say, to a Group X program or a small group program to improve people's functions? And we're talking about that mobility, that stability, that balance. and that integrated strength, you know, the triangle that you talked about earlier, Peter. Alex, how do you see integrating this into some, you know, not just personal training, but into that small group and into that group X?
Well, that can be very challenging. You know, as Coach had alluded to, the individual dose response is going to be very different. You give 100 people the same program, you'll get 100 different responses and outcomes. And it's always going to be more challenging the more people you're working with at once, right? That's just sort of a fact of group exercise. And so I think, again, to piggyback off of what Coach Twist said, is we need to be able to establish expectations. There has to be a little bit of, you know, education and understanding of how hard can we push, where maybe a one-on-one client, I could expect to improve a certain lift by 50 pounds in a few months, whereas in a group class, I may have to settle for, you know, everybody being able to get 10 to 15, where we don't necessarily have to be pushing that same exact effort level, as long as the progression is there and the improvement is there. You know, if somebody is 3 reps short of failure, but they're improving that 3 reps short of failure by 20 pounds, that's progress. And I like to be able to perform monthly challenges or, you know, group things to sort of get on board where we don't necessarily have the team environment of an NHL locker room, right? Where there is this inherently shared goal to win and to win, you know, as much as possible. But with a group, if we can have, sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt, but people do, you know, what practical things can we take away? What monthly challenges have worked for you with your clients? Because that's a great motivator.
Sure. Many of them that I try to do for some of the monthly things can be more wellness centered, get a good night's sleep, or avoid blue light for an hour, drink more water. But a lot of the ones that I've had really good success with better buy-in, to have that sort of group or collective culture of we are working towards a shared goal for ourselves. Daily walking, definitely, and especially if we're looking at weight loss clients, like Coach had said, there's no way that we can burn enough calories in that 3-hour window where you have somebody per week. If we can get better behaviors even outside of class or outside of the weight room, I'm always going to look at that as a success. Oftentimes you're limited by equipment with group training, right? So sometimes you have to default to, well, let's set a new push-up PR. Let's set a new walking lunge PR. Let's use what we have. Our own body weight is a very important variable, whether we're athletes or not.
Yeah. Peter, we had a question. Martha asked it, and she said, can you give examples of how you could cue loading muscle mass tissue, please? And I think that's where she was talking about, you know, taking it, being kinder.
Yeah. And is that mobility, stability, and integrating mobility, stability?
Yes, mobility, stability, and balance. That's what she had.
Yeah, great. Let's try, Martha. We'll try and answer this for you, and also build on Sara and Alex talking about changing group exercise and so on. I think, Sara, you said something practical. So first of all, in group exercise, appreciate as Coach Bryce said, that we're there and it might have 100 people, 30 people, 20 people. It's different than one-on-one coaching for what we can focus on. But there's common errors, and there's common steps in the progress. So if I see a group of 30 people and I may or may not even see someone doing something wrong because I'm with the whole group, but I know what the common errors are and how we progress. And so it is using that voice to cue people, everyone at once. I know people are there for caloric cost and metabolic cost and so on. But if you think philosophically, of course, there's lots of good things happening. But in a typical HIIT class, you've got clients together who don't move well, who may have some pain, may have some limitations. And then we're taking them to fatigue at a high speed when they can't even do one rep of one exercise really well yet. And so a real practical thing, which also helps your loading tissue, is creating a longer, I would focus on each exercise. Maybe it's the pace that you're going at, it's the load that they can already manage. I'm going to disappear out of here a little bit, but maybe it's a drop step. I've got a dumbbell in my hand and it's a drop step to a load and push through. But if anyone's ever seen someone do a burpee to a full range of motion in a class, send me the video, because in 25 years I haven't. If you're not going to do it well, don't do it. If you can't do one rep well, don't add speed. If you can't do one rep to a full range of motion well, don't add fatigue. So what do we do first? So here we are, we can handle this speed, this weight, this amount of fatigue. And now the two practical things there is, let's load low, under control. We have a longer range under control. It's time under tension that loads the tissue. So slower tempo with that load. And I'm going to coil and get down deeper. So our focus is the depth, the range, get the elbow to the knee, and then coil, ankle, knee, hip, get the hip extended, push all the way through. So we're getting as low and coiled and getting as tall and long. And if you can extend those two parameters, that's really going to help people in a real simplistic group, general, everyone's in it together way to improve function, improve ability. Martha, that also gives you a longer range of motion to be able to load up, and the focus is on control. I see really super quick, Sarah, I see mobility, stability, and balance. So if I take my dumbbell, this says easy, by the way. Anything I do super hard, that was easy. Did you hear that? Something's hard only if you think it's hard. You do anything anytime you do something crazy hard, make sure you tell yourself, that was easy. All right, and it's that mind. You got to make hard easy. Get used to doing it. So maybe it's the dumbbell in this hand. I've got, Martha, your mobility, stability, balance. Think of the weights that you can cue loading muscle tissue is control, range, and if you look at each rep having 4 phases, there's a positive, negative, but there's something in between you. So I may take this lateral raise and go into a lateral step. A lateral step, getting down nice and low, but I'm not just coming down. I've got control. The more range in my legs, the longer my shoulder is under tension, and my core coming down in control. For tension as well, keep your hand further out. If this was sport performance, or Alex is going to kick my butt in jiu-jitsu, I've got my hand in close coming across because I'm strongest here. This is physics. This is difficult. You're going to improve muscle strength hypertrophy. Performance, you want to be in here because you've got more power. It's more efficient. So know your levers, your length, coming long, coming across, and then up. And notice my knee, I'm on one leg. So I've got balance, stability, and a pause, hold. Pause, 1, 2, drop down, come under control. Come up, pause, hold. So my elements are how far away from my body is the load, the tempo, I've slowed it down, I've lengthened it out and kept control the whole way, and then I've got a pause, hold. Those are 4 things. They're not exhaustive, but that are really effective at keeping tension on a prime mover while you're building mobility, stability, and balance, which is awesome because nothing happens in the body in isolation. There's no isolated injury. There's no isolated performance. So it's getting things to work in concert, orchestrating movement together. Hope that helps.
Sorry, I had it muted. The dog started barking. Sorry about that. But synchronizing it, working together as a system works really well. And how can personal trainers approach program design more effectively? Now, I'm going to talk to you, Alex, but the first thing you always bring up is, what are their goals? What's the objective? What's the measurable goals? So is there a system you use? Is there an evaluation process or PAR-Q you take with individuals so that you know what their goals are and you know where you're beginning with them?
Well, that's a big part of what I'm learning in school right now, how we can do that, from a more sort of medical heavy side. But I've had initial sessions with clients for years ever before wanting to move into a clinical setting. And in general, I don't have a pure like, oh, hey, go fill this out and then come back 15 minutes later, right? Because that first initial session is a great time to establish rapport with your client. You only get one chance for a first impression. And so if I can establish to them, of course, I'm taking notes and there are pretty generic questions that you're looking to learn about, but I want to know, what do you do for a living? What does a week look like for you? Do you have any current pain? Are there current health issues? Getting that rapport, showing them that I care, and establishing that communication from square one, along with, hey, what are your goals? What are you looking to get out of the next month, the next 6 months, the next year? Knowing that I'm not going to be working with anyone forever except for my wife, knock on wood, that, I want to be able to establish that relationship and instill the knowledge and understanding so that they can train lifelong, whether it's with me or not. So that first interaction is vital. And it doesn't mean that you sit there on the couch talking for the entire hour. You can absolutely get right to moving and sweating and assessing skillful movement or movement quality and all of the things that the nitty gritty that we get really excited about. But if we are not establishing that personal connection and establishing those goals and those expectations, I love that word that Coach Twist used, those expectations and that personal relationship. It's called personal training for a reason. If we can establish that from square one, we're going to get better outcomes. The best program in the world on paper with poor execution and poor intention isn't going to lead to results. But if I have a personal relationship with my client, I know what they do for a living. I know what they do on weekends. I know their kids' names. I know their dogs' names. That does go a really long way towards understanding and building that bigger picture so that we're looking to accomplish those things for them together.
Oh, that's great. We're getting close to the end. Peter, we have that extra slide. Would you mind addressing that?
Yeah, I can. How much time? 60 seconds?
No, we got a couple of minutes.
Okay. And it's there if you want to share it with folks or they want to.
Sure. Here we go. All right. I'm going to do this. And can you see it? The sports character?
Yeah, no, this is great. And this was some tips on program design. Outside, of course, there's all the exercise methodology and principles and guidelines. And are you building, mobility and then strength and then power and then speed? So that's another discussion. This is just to make sure, so Alex, one of his sports, I'm sure he has many, is jiu-jitsu. And, so automatically, unless I have a hockey stick in my hand, I'm screwed. So I'm going to be kinder to him now. But there's a very athletic sport with 3D motion. So whatever the sport is, these are some things you can take a look at. Number one, you want to speak the same language. Before I talk to Alex about jiu-jitsu, I'm not expert at that sport. I'm going to read up on it. I'm going to talk to local coaches. We need to speak the same language, number one. But then I need to understand the sport. So I would look at whether it's tennis, baseball, football, soccer, hockey, etc., volleyball. I would look at the seasonal calendar. What are their demands and density? When's their off season? When's their training camp? When are their tournaments? Look at the game and practice overview. What are they achieving? How much work are they getting? How much rest are they getting? Positional variations in sports like ice hockey and North American football. There's great difference between the demands and skills and movement of the positions. So, you want to understand the position that they're in. And essentially, we can look at time motion analysis, which might be a soccer player. Where are they running around the field, on and off the ball? How fast? When do they slow down? How much rest do they have? How much acceleration? understand that physiology and energy systems and the biomechanics. And I'll just suggest in sports, whether it's tennis across the net or basketball, where there's an offensive player and a defensive player, a lot of team sports break down into one-on-one battles, and those are called individual tactics. What's the tricks and tools based on my physicality that I can move offensively to move around a defensive player, and what's the tactics, the individual tactics the defensive player has? Those are the most demanding physically, and you would see that exude itself in tennis and badminton and table tennis and so on. Understanding those type of things can feed you with what do you train, when are you resting, when are you recovering, and what really is the inventory of physical skills that your athlete requires that you should even point to. And then as Coach Bryce was saying, you want ways to measure them. So you start with that end in mind, as he said, and work backwards and know there. So what I took you through helps you understand the sport, the athlete, the position, the demands, so you even know what's the physical arsenal that you need to work on for that athlete and speak the same language.
That's great. All right, we're gonna make sure that you guys at home, you can get these slides. So when we send you the link to the recording, we'll make sure to include these slides. Thank you, Peter, for supplying them. So Peter, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. Alex, thank you too. I want to thank Adam for running this. Thank you all for coming in, and you guys take care, stay healthy. Objective, attitude, resiliency, adaptability, and cooperation. All right, guys. Thank you all.
All the best, everyone. All the best ahead. Much success to you.
Yeah, take care.